Hey there, guys. It's Nolan and Jason here with Roofing Webmasters.
Howdy.
All right, so today's going to be a good one, I think. It's based upon a call, very legitimate call I had, but title is Roofer Lead Brain. This is your brain on leads. This is your brain on your brand. So I forget what was this is your brain on drugs thing from like the 80s, basically. It was where
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs, and it was an egg, and it was a frying egg.
Frying egg.
Yeah.
So we've done this analogy, but not hit it quite right. So if somebody listens to this podcast through, they're really going to understand more on what it takes to make it work and why people screw it up so badly. I think that most people have roofer lead brain. So because I think there's a couple of reasons I was thinking about it. We didn't even talk about this yet, but when people are in roofing and the jobs pay a lot, they in their head go from one lead to the next, and they don't get enough of them.
Yeah, ever, no matter how many they get.
Once somebody's up on the big show and they're working on their brand, they get a lot. Everybody always wants more.
Yeah,
but a guy that's kind of bumping along and that feels pretty good about himself, because they'll call, he's moving from one lead to the next, but it's enough to keep him going, and he wants more. And by the way, this guy that I was talking to, he said, I'm calling for roofing leads, and I have money to spend. I didn't tell you that part.
No, you did not.
The first part, and I want to discuss this, so this will all make a lot of sense. I'm calling to get roofing leads, and I have money to spend. And he kind of inflected on it a little bit.
Yeah.
First off, when I hear something like that, I might think unprofessional or baiting me or...
Giant red flag.
Yeah, giant red flag. But I don't think that's what was going on. Or him saying, I think that what had happened, because this conversation really drove home, okay, this is your thought process behind where you get a lead, and this is what needs to happen to get the most leads possible.
Right.
He had called, and he was having trouble with the industry. He was just trying to get me to call him back. It was a plead more than it was an ego move.
It was a plea, and it was an assurance to you that he's willing to pay for
I'm willing to pay you if you'll just help me.
Yeah.
And so when he called, and I said, okay, in this guy's defense, he was a smart guy and a nice guy, but he had roofer lead brain.
Right.
So he had was lead brain. So it's like the brain's fried out and addicted to this low quality business cycle.
And that's why the whole the this is your brain old 80s analogy
sense.
Works.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before, that the guys looking for leads are like addicts.
Right.
I mean, it sounds hugely insulting, but that's not how it's meant. It's meant kind of out of pity, is that they're like drug addicts. They're looking for their
But they
next
don't know
hit.
that.
Yeah.
They don't know that. So they think that stuff is wrong in the world or has happened to them, and they go in to get leads, and people aren't providing them properly to them.
Right.
When in reality, what's happening is that they've done a horrible job of translating their brand digitally to Google so that they can show up in ranking. So this guy in particular had expanded, and a lot of guys do, but he was in the Northeast, where states are, it's not Texas where we are, so you can run across the state line pretty easily.
Yeah. In a like you can walk.
Which is fine, but he had 3 locations. I can see 2 for a roofer, and actually one might be like a place he likes to visit, or there's a hailstorm there one time, or whatever. Yeah. But 3 locations is an indication of expansion for the wrong reasons. He was expanding because he didn't get leads.
He was expanding to grow, not expanding because he did grow.
Yeah.
It's cart before the horse.
And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of rough to see, because I'm like, hey, there's a lot to be had when you participate in the big show and you get the better leads, which is by working on the brand.
Yeah.
So there's more leads to be had by this is your brain on your brand, because then the mindset's proper.
Right.
So when someone calls and looks for a lead, only about 1 out of 10 times do they not have some sort of psychological block or misconception in their head,
Right.
which makes them a bad client to work with because they don't want to work on their brand.
Yeah.
So
And they think a lead is something that somebody else has that they have to purchase.
right.
But a lead is something that you can develop or grow yourself if you nurture your brand properly.
So I say this all the time.
Homegrown leads versus store-bought leads.
Homegrown leads are way better,
Yeah.
way better. So I say this all the time, but it's got to be brought up all the time. People forget we're so far down the road with Google that they forget that Google is the big show.
Right.
Over 80% of people go there, and while those over 80% are there, it's like 88% or something.
Yeah.
That 88% of the populace looking for home services clicks on a non-paid item, which is up there because someone focused on the digital aspect of the brand, and Google put them up in ranking.
Right.
And then that's where most of the leads are. So when somebody calls up looking for a lead as opposed to looking for a brand to build leads, they're on the extreme wrong side of the fence.
Yeah.
And I can't solve their problems unless they let me fix the underlying issues. So when they call up, and I went, I was working on, I told you I had a checkup on from a specialty doctor on like some headache stuff, and he's actually a really good guy, but he diagnosed, he's like, okay, do this, do that, and I was doing functional movement stuff with, and I'm like, but that's what is, I was like, it's what happens when somebody calls, and I said, well, I'm calling for leads, Nolan. I said, yeah, but the problem is that you've expanded to 3 states because you don't get leads, but you don't get leads because you don't work on your brand.
Right.
He said, well, I have SEO, and I said, I was
clearly not.
I was driving at the time, so I finally just pulled over because this conversation went like an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, by the way, I want to thank you for listening to this because I really enjoy these conversations now because we've done this for so long. If somebody comes to us and wants to be great on Google and have their digital presence be shown, it's easy. For us at this point. If someone will just do minor stuff, they've been online for a couple of years, they got 20, 30 reviews, we're getting them in ranking. You have all kinds of problems. And
you're a challenge.
You're a challenge, and you have all kinds of misconceptions, but it makes me feel kind of good about myself to help someone that's in your condition, and when they listen to me and I know they have this lead issue, then it's a big deal. Now, there was all sorts of other things going on here. The name of the company was a phrase, not a brand. And
it was basically industry and place.
Correct.
Without any
correct
unique attribute.
Yeah, and someone else in the area had the same name and had already been recognized by Google. And I'm like, oh, we can't actually help you anymore.
Yeah. Sorry to tell you this, but.
And I said, this isn't, and he kind of paused, and I said, said we could help, but you'll have to have a brandable name. And there was nothing to be lost at this point because there was just the GBP was hard to find, and the brand wasn't there, but the website ironically showed up because it was keyword specific and Google didn't care as much about that, but there needed to be a brand in there. So we may end up getting this and working with this guy, but it is a bit of a challenge, but it can be fixed. And so he comes back to the town that had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in it, not 1 million, but the metro area had enough that he would have gotten great results from it and not have to add more than 1 location, or 2 maybe, but 1 to start with because that's a brandable local area.
Yeah.
That's another thing people don't realize too, because that's that whole conversation is well, I'm calling to get leads and I'm in 3 states and I have a generic name and I don't show up online. They're like, okay, there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot of heavy lifting happening in that conversation.
So like, okay, so Google only shows local companies to local searchers, and a lot of guys don't understand that. But
we've talked about it at length.
We talk about it a lot, but and I had to dial back and say, hey, there's a lot of stuff I'm saying that's bad here, but it can be fixed. And the good news is there's tons of leads to be had in this massive town of just, of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
And you've never participated in it before. And I'm like, wouldn't you like to get leads because Google likes your brand? And then he began to listen, and then and then he asked for paid again. And I'm gonna explain this to people. I guess this is a little too much information, but I'm gonna tell people why we don't do paid leads anymore. Nolan Walker here for Data Pins. You may not know, but I own a software company, and we have a proprietary software called Data Pins, DATAPINS. You can search it at datapins.com. This is not white labeled. I actually own this piece of software, and I made it for you. It was made for contractors. You can actually take pictures of jobs, up to 6, make a caption about the material, the brand, the situation, the repairs, and post that back to your individual pages on your website, just like that. It's super simple. Anyone could use it. It also texts and emails your clients direct links to your reviews, so it helps reputation and reviews, which helps conversion and map placement. The geo coordinate gets grabbed by Data Pins, and Google can tell where you are. So instead of them just seeing reviews, they see all jobs or even estimates that you do. This vastly outperforms just getting reviews. Helps the map show up, helps organic keywords. And remember, those captions that you're putting in there help expand the keywords per page, and it's great regular content. I love it. We made it just for you. It is organic optimization on steroids for both your website, your rankings, and the map placement. Check out Data Pins. I think you'll be happy you did. So it's because when someone looks for a paid lead, they have lead brain. And someone with lead brain has other issues going on,
right,
and doesn't understand the marketplace. A lot of times someone looking for a lead only, and again, it's not all the people that call that look for a lead, but 9 out of 10 people looking for a lead. It's okay to buy a lead if you're taking care of your organic.
Yeah.
But 9 out of 10 people think they're taking care of organic or not.
Right.
In fact, the guy that I put online this morning as a new client said Nolan, why he wanted to go. He was in the Northeast too, and he wanted to hop across the river, and he was going to go from Maryland to Virginia because where he was in Maryland had a lower demographic, lower, less rich people, whatever. So I'm like, hey, that's great, but there's money where you are.
Exhaust the market you're in.
Right.
Expand when you can't go further where you are.
He said, well, I'm already up in ranking where I am now. And I said, okay, define that. And he said, well, if I type in, words in my area, and he was like number 5 in this, but only in primaries, didn't have any extra services. And yeah, so that is the point. You can go into your market and expand the heck out of it and get hundreds and hundreds of % increase on organic.
Right.
And until that's done, it makes no financial sense to move on to buying a lead.
Right.
Or to paying for social impression or whatever. So we're paying for a click. None of those things make sense because the return on investment on the big show, on organic, is such a big deal. And that is your brain on your brand. So if you start to think about okay, if I have a legitimate brand, Google sees digital signaling, I get reviews and pins and changes to the website and branded search and citations and all this stuff, links and domain authority. And I show this well, I'll get to participate in the big show. And someone who hasn't ever participated in this doesn't understand it at all.
Right. They don't realize what the big show is. They don't realize they don't know what they're missing.
They don't know what they're missing at all. So he had called looking for that, and he said, well, I'd like to pay for a lead. And I said, well, we don't sell a lead like Home Advisor, Angie's List, Yelp, Thumbtack. You can go buy a lead from those places, and they get the leads primarily from them showing up in the big show in your market.
Right.
So, but people, that doesn't click with people. Yeah. They still don't catch that. I'm like,
yeah, that's actually one of the fundamental problems. What I mentioned before, that a lead is something someone else has that you buy.
Right.
They don't think about how that lead was acquired or developed in the first place.
Right. They don't. They look at it like this thing that other people have, and people won't help them get it.
Yeah.
But instead of looking at their brand as a digital signal that could show up to get all the leads.
Right.
It is this small little turn, but if somebody doesn't get that, and that's why we don't go into leads. Now, we had, at one point in time, 100 clients almost that paid per lead.
Yeah, instead of a flat monthly rate, We tracked all phone calls. We had someone in the office that listened to every call, determined which ones were legitimate leads, and we charged those clients a per lead fee.
Correct. And if we had all of our clients on pay per lead, we would probably rake in 5 times more revenue.
Easily.
Yeah, and that is the truth of it.
Yeah.
But
And when we first conceived of the idea, we were like, ching, because we were just
it
like...
was fantastic.
Because I remember having a conversation with you that you were pitching the concept, and I was like, and I kind of did the math in my head, and I said, we'd make exactly the same money if they only got, and it was some ludicrously low number of calls per week, like 2.
Right.
And it was like, we'd be making the same money if they just got that. Let's do it.
But the mentality of the person that buys the lead is not a longevity mentality, not the proper mentality. The person that wants to buy the lead will put it back and say, and I explained this to this individual, and he was nice enough to listen to me and grow a little bit.
Hopefully.
I don't know if he'll end up fixing his stuff or not, but it was good enough to turn it into a podcast. So, when somebody calls up and they want leads, they're not thinking of a long-term thing usually.
Right.
They're looking at it as an object instead of their brand and something that is built and cherished and, like I've worked for this. A lot of times these people that are in this process aren't as stable of a business either. So when we did the pay per lead, we also had monthly paying clients as well.
Yeah.
Now the pay per lead people mentality was, well, put up or shut up, Nolan. If you think you can get me up in ranking, do it. Now if we had somebody up in ranking, we'd have to, it'd be a few different parameters for the relationship, and then we'd go about doing it. And then we would be successful. Now, one client in particular, and this is, it's too much information, but it's interesting. So we charge a very reasonable monthly fee. We are the best head and shoulders above anyone, and we are less than anyone by quite a bit that claims to be good.
Yeah.
And we're month to month, and there's a lot of benefits to us. But somebody's like, well, I'll pay you for every lead you can get. And if you can produce them, that's what I'm looking for. And we even had our own staff listen to all leads all the way through. Mm-hmm. So this made other lead sources look like the trash that they are. These were all qualified, legitimate. They weren't referrals from neighbors, nothing. They were just the best leads possible, only charged.
In case some of you don't know, most of the lead services or people that charge on a per lead basis,
they don't listen to them.
If the call is over 40 seconds, it's a lead.
Right.
Period.
They might sell it to multiple people. The leads aren't real. You can't get your money back. Our stuff was on point. So I'm going to give this as an example so people understand some reasons why we don't do it. And I'm going to give a couple of examples, actually. Okay. Guy has a hailstorm.
Yeah.
Guy gets hundreds of phone calls in the first 3 days. Many of them are leads that came from the internet, which we tracked through a tracking number and all kinds of stuff.
And every call was recorded.
Oh, we made tens of thousands of dollars with this client in months.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands. The client stayed on for a little while after that, but held a bitterness towards us.
Yeah.
The client made over $1 million net.
Yeah.
Easily. But
he had the best year he'd ever had in his life.
Had the best year ever, but held a bitterness towards us and eventually stopped. Now, that's just one example.
Yeah.
Other clients that did this that are lead buyers would get just one extra one per week and cancel, or have a bad month or not manage their business well and cancel. Would do all kinds of weird little things. If the money got close to the amount of money that we would have charged monthly, which was always a problem, the client knew how much we charged monthly as opposed to lead because they couldn't go back and forth.
Right. We didn't let them swap.
They couldn't, because we didn't make as much money up front while the account was seasoning.
Right.
And it was very logical, and that was the deal that was made.
Yeah.
And people's like, I don't care if you can get me great leads, I'll pay for them. The person
when we first started that, and we heard people say that, we were so happy to hear that. And then it became a thing that you would tell me somebody said that, and I'd be like, oh.
It would be like somebody saying, and no offense to my peeps, I'm a Christian guy, but it would be somebody, you're getting a bid for your roof, and the guy says, I'm a Christian. And it's like automatically you're like, uh-oh. he's throwing up red flags to
Yeah.
try to lull me
If you
into.
have to say it, you ain't it.
So most of the lead buyers had this lead brain problem.
Yeah.
There was some issue somewhere, and the problem, really, the root of the issue was that someone doesn't view their company as a digital brand and doesn't hope to foster that for the sheer sake of Google seeing that to put them up in ranking. So the idea of buying one lead at a time and removing themselves from any liability of that. Just, you produce a lead, I'll pay you if I feel like it. And if you have that relationship with, like, I won't name the three that I just named again, but one of them, they really fleece people and handle them how they want to.
Right.
When we were doing this was just leads on their brand.
Yeah.
Straight to them. And even with that lead, they did not want to pay long term. It became a bad relationship because if we did well, they didn't like it. And if we didn't do well, they didn't like it. If we did medium, they might not like it.
Yeah.
And then,
there was a sweet spot for a couple of them, but
right.
if it went too high,
right.
there was a limit, and we knew what it was. If we saw if we saw one getting above a certain amount per month on leads, we got nervous because we knew that call was coming.
So somebody, on the other hand, pays a monthly fee, which is the standard in the digital marketing arena.
Right.
And anybody who does leads, by the way, we were actually doing quality sites, but they're like the trashiest, nastiest sites you've ever seen because they can't afford to spend a lot of time on them.
Right.
Because the lead person isn't.
This is other people, by the way. Not
other
us.
agencies, because the lead client isn't as good of a client. You got to be careful of this client.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand it. So somebody that understands their brand, and the irony of it is that almost all of our clients, like I don't know what it would be, but we would literally bring in like a 500% revenue increase if all of our clients were charged by the lead.
Yeah.
But our clients that we have now are not lead brain clients. They are branded company brain clients, and they get hundreds of percent more for the monthly fee. So they want us to produce more, and they're able to accept all of the leads. Their business doesn't fold up. No. They don't fall apart. And so that
and generally they understand and appreciate what we're doing.
Right. But that person has appreciation. Their brain is on their brand, and they understand that if they handle their brand digitally properly, they get more leads. So they get hundreds of percent more leads, and just view it a little bit differently. It's fascinating, really, when you think about the whole thing.
It really is just a shift in your perception of where business comes from, of the source of a lead.
If you remove all of the stuff you hear, and we've talked about this before, but there's all sorts of marketing and propaganda about funneling, or in fact, the guy that I put on today, he said, "What about funneling?" I said, "Well, what about funneling?" And he said, I don't understand it. And I said, okay, fair enough. I like people like that because they're like, okay, thanks for just leveling with me.
Yeah, thanks for being honest. And
thanks for being straightforward. I said, okay, funneling is just a jargon in the industry used, and if you look it up on Google, there's a picture of a funnel with the leads that go on the top and customers come out the bottom.
Right.
And presumably you have to put a whole lot.
There's some kind of activity going on in the middle.
Yeah.
Which is never really defined.
But I luckily, that guy signed up, gonna exploit the market that he's in properly to get all that he can get from it. Then he's gonna look at moving across the river.
Yeah,
but
which is the right way to do it.
Which is the right way to do it. And now he's looking at his business as a brand. Nolan Walker here for Roofers Paradise. Thank you for checking out our podcast here for Roofing Webmasters, where we talk about nothing but marketing. But I'd love for you to check out Roofers Paradise, where I personally interview and talk with roofers. We talk about their successes, their failures, their dreams, their goals and ambitions. It's a great podcast where we actually speak to roofers. Love to have you check out Roofers Paradise. You can find us on YouTube by searching Roofers Paradise. Any platform for podcasts, search Roofers Paradise. Be sure to subscribe, or you can actually go to roofersparadise.show. Look forward to having you over at Roofers Paradise. It's a little bit easier. I'll talk about this too. Like a roofer falls into the lead brain problem more. A plumber or an HVAC knows that the phone needs to ring regularly, daily. They don't view
Yeah,
the lead
a
as much
roofer
of an
can get
object.
one job that lasts a week
Right.
and pays 10, 20 grand.
Right.
Plumbers don't have that luxury.
Right. They know it needs to ring all the time.
Yeah.
So they are much more focused on that brand. At least now they're flawed too. They think that they only need the map or whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of problems that people have with their thought processes towards this, as we know. But if someone and let's define this brand deal again, just real quick. So it just means that you're showing up on Google, and people, the guy that's getting the lead brain problem, he thinks that he can't get up on Google, or that people on Google don't get anything from it.
Right.
Or he thinks he can't be like the people that are already up there.
They're already up there, and nobody can knock them.
Or they're up there because they're big, not big because they're up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all these misconceptions in their head. Is like, no, they're not up there because they're big. They're big because they're up there, and they get up there by focusing on their digital signaling for their brand.
Yeah. A lot of people, when we talk about brand, they think we're talking old school, meaning your logo, your trademark, your name, the colors you use. And all that obviously is part of it. But what we're really talking about, and I'm going to get slightly technical, we're talking about your business becoming an entity within the Google knowledge graph.
I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, go ahead. Good stuff.
It is when your entity is a business, your corporation, LLC, whatever you've got, when Google sees that, knows that that is a business entity, that exists, and they've put it in this web of information where you're connected to the services provided, the materials you use, and the area you work in.
Yeah.
And everything else that touches your business, when they've associated you with all those things in what's called the knowledge graph or the knowledge map of Google, of the search algorithm, that's your brand. And when you've got that, then when people search these things, you want as many connections between you and those things, and short connections.
So those connections and those signals and all this stuff is what you know of as SEO.
Right.
Yeah. Search engine optimization. What you just said about that brand created into an entity to show up is the reason why the guy that initiated this discussion has to change his name. Because even though he was first,
someone else is already that entity.
Someone else is already that entity, and he can't have it too. And because it's a general keyword phrase, he's basically screwed. Now, he's going to be better off long term with a brandable word that's very distinctive along with the main subject category. In this case of this guy, who was a great guy, we had a great call, very nice guy. He was in metal roofing.
Yeah.
And which is a topically relevant thing. He was talking about changing it, and he immediately shot out a word that did not have roofing or metal in it. And so we talked about topical relevance and user intent, but what he really needed was like, I have people all these crazy roofing names now, but I like them because they're specific, like
trademarkable.
Like red horse metal roofing or whatever. So it's like you're the only red horse metal roofing
possibly ever.
Yeah, possibly ever. And so Google knows that's your brand, and nobody can take it from you. All this stuff. You couldn't. He was talking about fighting this as like, well, it's not even a brand. It's just a keyword.
Yeah, that's the thing. What one thing he probably didn't realize is, yes, this other company beat him out for that brand, but that brand is such a general keyword, such a general phrase,
right?
That it's not truly trademarkable. That if he was to create a better brand, he could easily overtake them.
Presumably, we're not legal counsel for these people.
I don't mean trademark in the legal
trademark
sense.
law is ludicrously bad stuff to mess with.
Google looks at that as a general phrase.
Agreed.
And I believe you said he had an unusual last name.
He did.
And putting that in it would make him more brandable.
Which would be
unique.
a really good last name to use with the company.
Yeah.
Even if people couldn't pronounce it, he could school everybody on the pronunciation, and then he has this unique name with the word metal roofing.
Yeah. And
it's perfect. A roofer in a specialty tends to spread out into a larger area, but I'm telling you, there's an old book called, I think it's called Acres of Diamonds by Earl Nightingale, who was an old motivational speaker, or Nightingale Conant. And anyway, I used to order a long time ago the books on tape cassettes, and there's that story.
We're dating ourselves.
What's
tape?
I've studied self-help stuff my whole life and sales and stuff, but Acres of Diamonds was a story that I think was true. It doesn't even matter if it is or isn't, but this guy that was looking for diamonds in Africa or something that was taking off, and he'd sold his land to go look. The people who bought his land found the largest diamond ever found in Africa in the creek behind his house. And
you've told me this.
It's a great story, It's like, and they put it on the mantle, and then a geologist came over one day and found it, and he got fabulously wealthy. But the guy that wanted to move across the river, no, there's plenty right there. The metal roofer that's in one state and has two others, no, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homes there, and you don't currently optimize to speak of.
Yeah.
So there's tons of business to be had with what Google will allow you to do where you are that you haven't done, and that will be your best return on investment dollar, bar none. Now, he was also looking into canvassing, which I think is fabulous. And I'm like, hey, if you can dial in organic optimization and digital branding to get the leads and then throw in canvassing, that's a match made in heaven. That is awesome. So that would be, that canvassing to me, door knocking is the second best thing. It's not the best thing because what we do is so inexpensive, and you still have to manage people and drive them around and get insurance and hire a manager and constantly hire door knockers.
Yeah.
Pay them, more commission because they generated the sale, the whole thing.
Right.
When the organic lead comes in off the digital signaling that sends signals to Google that your brand is worth being an entity online and showing up in PAC3 mapping tons of times in organic ranking, that's where all the cheap leads come from. And that's your brain on your brand. That's the thing that I'd like to change in people's mind, is like to go to that. And I'd say that really nowadays it's weird, but when we first started doing this like 12 or 13 years ago, everyone called for SEO and to show up on Google. Now, because of how long it's been and there's all this other stuff out there, the guy that was asked about the funneling, there are people selling software, and funneling doesn't work well for a roofer because nobody wants your newsletter and to give you their email or to sign up for your free giveaway or whatever. Nobody really wants to do that.
A lot of agency, after several algorithmic updates,
they gave up,
made SEO more difficult to do well.
That's a good point.
They gave up and they developed other products and started pushing that stuff, automated funnels and stuff. Automated funnels, by the way, are bullshit. They're just...
Well, it bans your email account and all kinds of stuff.
But they're an endless problem to juggle and manage, and they really... I think I've said before that marketing happens at the top of the funnel. The funnel is not the marketing.
Right.
The marketing is what gets stuff in the funnel in the first place.
People don't understand that. So the funnel is very expensive because it's automatically shaving people outside of the funnel, and then you have to throw them in the top. And he's right. This is worthy of a whole podcast. Why doesn't anyone sell SEO anymore? Because they can't. Well, they technically sell SEO. They just downplay it, and then they try to get all the paid advertising dollars.
Right.
And then they don't actually do anything for SEO because they gave up because it got more complicated. We did stuff like data pens and just got better at what we do, and actually still get people up on the big show for SEO.
Right.
Other people sell SEO and don't do it, and then all the clients get jaded, and then if they have tried, some of them tried, but now then they bounce around looking for leads. What I was going to say though is that we went from 0 people looking for leads to half.
Yeah.
At least half, maybe 60%. So most people go around looking for leads. They throw their hands up. They don't understand what's going on. They hear funnels. They hear Google ads. They hear Facebook advertising, Instagram. And they go, well, Nolan, you don't do this. And I said, no, I do those things. They go, and well, you don't. I hadn't heard you talk about paid ads. I said, we'll do paid ads. We just won't start with paid ads. And said, well, what about social media? I said, do you want social media?
We'll reluctantly do social media.
I'll reluctantly do social media. And I'll say, look, the reason they're not sold is because we're a boutique agency that's highly skilled. The staff is highly skilled. Everybody's been here for years. And if we go sell you paid ads on Facebook, Instagram, or Google, the Google paid ad person on their own account will stay 6 or 7 months on average. And the social media guy will stay 2-3 months.
Yeah.
The organic, where the big show is, if you work on your brand to show up digitally so that you get clicks that aren't all having to be paid for each one, or your map or impressions or reputation and reviews, those people stay for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But most agencies can't keep them because they don't know how to do it.
Those people sometimes stay until they sell their company.
Many times.
We have that happen.
Or death.
Several times. Yeah, unfortunately. Sometimes,
right.
Yeah, that too.
Right.
But we literally have people who die as our client. We have people who are our client until they sell their company and retire.
We have.
It probably happens 3 or 4 times a year. The retirement, not the death.
Nolan Walker here for Roofing Webmasters. I want you to consider becoming one of our clients. We've done this for 12 years, have hundreds of clients. We help everybody with their design, their code, their content, showing up on Google as high as possible. Clients get regular call volume. If you've never experienced what I call the big show, showing up on Google organically, which is where the vast majority of the clicks occur, on your map, your reputation, your reviews, your organic keyword ranking, you owe it to yourself to try us. We even have proprietary software that we own called data pens that lets you post pictures of jobs, unique captions that increase keywords and long tail keywords, your rankings on Google, text and emailing clients about reviews, even posting pins and photos and captions back to Google. All this helps your organic rankings. Data pens is fantastic, and the work we do here at Roofing Webmasters is fantastic. Please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. There's one thing that agencies don't understand, and business owners don't understand, is that there's money and integrity and business ethics. So when somebody calls up here, we don't take every dime we can and throw them into everything because the return's poor. We put them in the best return item and try to explain things to them. And if it doesn't work for that guy at the time, we don't worry about it. I could have, what people would have done with this guy, this would be an interesting turn on this, is that they would have taken him and said, oh, we can get you leads, sir. We'll get you leads. And they would have asked for thousands of dollars, paid on Google ads, paid on social media, and then hooked up the funneling landing pages and email drips, which wouldn't have done anything. And then they would have tracked the phone numbers, and then he would have gotten almost nothing for like $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000. We don't.
But he would have been locked into a 1-year contract.
He would have been locked on, money down, and then he would have run kicking and screaming, and again think that SEO and digital marketing doesn't work.
Right.
Which is why he was going around saying, I have money to spend. Would someone please help me? He didn't say that in a way that was like, because I heard it the second time I was going through my notes again, or my voicemails, and he was still stuck in there. I was deleting voicemails, and this morning, and he's like, hey, I got money to spend. And I'm like, I'm looking for leads and I have money to spend. And I'm like, and it went, ring, and I'm like, where? And I'm like,
scratch.
Yeah. I was like, that didn't come off well, but he didn't mean that. That was a cry for help.
Yeah.
Because of him getting screwed around by digital marketing agencies and not understanding it. But if somebody listens to this stuff that we put out there, they understand it well enough.
Yeah.
And then at very least, if they don't trust me and you well enough, they can go month
Don't we look trustworthy?
They can go month to month on our services. And don't you want to find out what happens when you're one of the most dominant ones in the big show?
Yeah.
Don't
you want to find out what happens when you've heard about the big show? You've heard about it from us. You've probably know somebody else in your industry that's been there.
You're jealous of the 3 people in the pack 3 right now.
You look at them and you're like, I wish I could be one of those.
I wish I could be one. Or your brain tells you, they don't get anything from that anyway. But you know, deep down, that's probably bullshit. You're just bullshitting yourself.
Yeah, you're just trying to make yourself feel better because you're not there.
Because you're not there. So, though, I mean, we make it as easy as possible for someone to say, I'm going to try the best that has ever been at getting roofers to show up online, roofing SEO, roofing webmasters, who also happens they own. There's a separate company that they own that has data pins, and all this stuff comes with it on a month-to-month agreement.
Yeah.
And then you fight like hell to get into the big show, and then call us later and tell us whether it was worth it or not. Most people, every once in a while, someone actually does. For us,
someone actually, calls and says, "You guys are great." I had one of those calls this week. Someone called in asking for a couple of minor changes on the site, and I had he was a roofer heading into winter, and he wanted to add a service he could do in winter.
Smart.
And I said, you know what? That's a great idea.
Ice dam, snow removal,
fencing. Oh. He wasn't in a place that freezes over completely, but roofing slows down.
Sure.
So I said, yeah, we'll absolutely add a fencing section. What kind of fencing are you going to offer?
I wish more guys did that. Christmas lights, snow removal, snow shoveling.
And he was like, you guys have done great for me. I appreciate everything you do. I'm like, well, thank you very much for saying that.
Yeah, I mean, we always say we make the valleys higher, the peaks higher. I mean, people have a better time of it. We've got recessionary stuff coming up. Building trade have already slowed down across the country in most states, not here in Texas to speak of, but most states it's slowed down due to economic related stuff as we head into off season,
Yeah.
And somebody that's up in organic ranking just has a better time of it. If someone could get I said this a couple times already, but if someone could get organic ranking ramping up right when we're in the recession's already kind of here, but right now,
right when it's getting going,
they have the possibility of sliding straight through the next year, 2, 3, who knows how long.
May not be a banner year, may not be the best year you ever had, but the best year you ever had is right on the other side of it.
But I think somebody could make it through and do the same volume. I really believe that, but I don't know. I mean, that's what my goals always are. Yeah. We never make a goal to go down because the economy bumped or hiccuped. Your phone?
Yeah, it hurts. Buzzing against the table.
All right, we'll leave it like this. I tell you what, as always, we'd love to hear from you. I want to thank the guy who made this podcast possible. He's a great guy, and it was a rare conversation to have someone listen and say, "Thanks for explaining all that to me."
Yeah.
And I was pleased to have had this conversation. It really does make me happy to help somebody when there's these sorts of issues going on. And if there are complicated things going on, we didn't used to be like this, by the way. I didn't used to be like this. So we saw something too complicated. We're like,
oh, we ain't touching that.
Yeah.
We ain't touching this.
Yeah, we did. I love that. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, they can't touch this. I watched a I don't know why, because I'm old and I was watching YouTube stuff, and Psy did a remix with MC Hammer.
Oh, really?
Award show. Psy was dancing with the pants on to Gangnam Style, whatever, however you say it. And then he stopped, and they stopped and remixed, and MC Hammer comes out. It was badass, actually. It was awesome.
I gotta look that up.
I think this video is already several years old, but MC Hammer came out, and then he started doing like a rendition of "Too Legit to Quit."
Okay.
To the dancing. Anyway, it was good stuff, really good stuff. But anyway, we like to solve these issues now. We like to help out. If you have major issues going on and problems, if you are looking for leads, you have major issues.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you have an issue. And
if you're looking to buy leads, everybody's looking for leads.
If you're looking to buy leads instead of looking for your brand, if you have your brand strong, you get leads.
Right.
But it's 180 degrees difference in the way that it's done. So if you're looking to buy leads, you have issues. And if you're not up there, be honest with yourself and try just one time.
Flip the script.
What was that?
I just said it.
Flip the script. No, that was a movie. I can't remember. All these old movie references are screwing me up. Jesus.
They're just jumbled up in my 80s kid brain.
Flip the script. Yeah, all right. I don't know. We'll have to look that one up. It feels like Will Ferrell or something like that.
It might be.
Yeah. Anyway, so give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get you into the big show. Focus on your brand to get more leads than you thought were possible.
Like and subscribe.
And please give us a call. We'd absolutely love to speak with you and love to have you as a client.
Take it easy.